guys, it's Addie, and I'm back to you with another book review. And the last time I saw you all, I was talking about reviewing this book, and it's by Dr. Joseph Burgo, and he is a psychotherapist. And his book called Shame is basically he takes his lessons he's learned from his private practice and he puts in like 10 or 12, or there's a bunch of case studies in here that he goes over and kind of talks about the influence of shame within those, and then his own theory of what shame is and how it impacts us and things like that. So I'm going to go ahead and read the little inscription on the inside, it's not on the back, and tell you how many pages it was and my review. So it says, encounters with embarrassment, guilt, self-consciousness, and remorse are unavoidable in everyday life. But oftentimes, these difficult emotions have something to teach us. Shame and the family of related emotions connected to it can highlight your goals and values and illuminate the person you expect yourself to be. In Shame, psychotherapist Joseph Burgo draws on his 35 years of experience in private practice to reclaim this supposedly toxic emotion and transform it into a force of deep empowerment. Self-esteem can't thrive in the soil of nonstop praise and encouragement. Instead, it depends upon setting and meeting goals, living up to the expectations we hold for ourselves, and sharing our joy and achievement with the people who matter most to us. Listening to and learning from encounters with shame will go further than affirmations and positive self-talk in helping build authentic self-esteem. This intimate book look at the spectrum of shame offers a new positive route forward from shame to joy, dignity, and self-esteem. All right, so this book was about, I don't like something in my eye. Sorry if you hear noises, I think that's somebody's dog. It's about 284 pages, but also what I like about this book, and he has his own website and things like that where he kind of goes into more detail of how to recognize these different things in your life. He has like 2 appendixes in the back. So the first one is talking about how to score like your shame test or something, and then appendix 2, he has a bunch of exercises you can take to kind of, as you're walking through this process, like to kind of get better at, self-regulating and things like that. And then there's like acknowledgments in the back. So I would give this book a 7.8. Not quite a 7, not quite higher up there. It was a great book for me because I got to kind of compare and contrast the differences between psychotherapists and marriage and family therapists. Because some people think like, oh, counseling, therapy, they're all the same thing. They're not the same thing. I had a friend asking me like, well, what's the difference between a psychotherapist and what you're going to do? And so basically a psychotherapist is somebody that can prescribe medicine, and a marriage and family therapist cannot. So that's like the big difference. But then also theoretical orientations are different, and techniques and interventions are different. So, and just the focus, where marriage and family therapy is very systemic focused. And so what that means is we're focused on not just the individual, but their family and all the other factors that influence them. So it could be the government, it could be cultural influences, it could be social influences, and we really look at all of that in treating the client. And so when I was reading his book and reading his case studies, I was like, he really did this and did that, and there's some stuff I was like, okay, like I wouldn't do that, and I don't think that was the best approach. But he kind of talks about his experience. He didn't the thing I didn't like, and that's why I gave it like a 7.8, is that when he would do something that was probably like, for me, that seems like an ethical boundary. Like he gave an example of a case study where he ended up calling a client at 11 o'clock at night, or allowing them to call him. And so I was like, whoop, that's like a line. Like with MFT, and at least with what I'm focused on, I would draw that boundary like line hard. Like, I don't know. It was just weird to me. And then the other thing is, like at the beginning of his book, it seemed like he was kind of bashing Brene Brown's work. Not bashing, but more more like sidelining her stuff and saying, well, she believes this, but mine is more, like trying to make his seem better. But towards reading the end of the book, he really gave her the acknowledgments as far as like doing that shame research. Like she's the foundation of like shame research. And basically the difference between him and Brene Brown is that he believes that shame is on a spectrum and there's different emotions of that, you know, add to shame. Whereas he was saying Brene Brown sees shame as this toxic, like shame, like the big bad shame word, where he's saying you see shame in everyday things, which as I was reading his book, I'm like, Brene Brown pretty much highlights the same things you highlighted. So I don't know why he just kind of made it weird at the beginning. But I really love the case studies, and I loved just reading about the different types of people I could come across in therapy, and just the different situations and how he handled it and things like that. And so, yeah, in this book, I actually took a lot more notes than I usually do. I usually just highlight, but I actually like wrote a lot of notes in here. And so that was kind of different, but great. And then what I love about his kind of ending resolution to, well, how do we, you know, overcome shame and things like that. And it's not so much overcoming shame, but it's more of setting and meeting goals as a way to raise your self-esteem and to start to see yourself differently, and start to, as you come across those shaming experiences, you're not so taken aback by them, you know, because you've worked through things. And the idea of having and sharing joy with somebody really raises your self-esteem. So this is a great book. I would not only recommend it for those in this field, but if you're just someone who's on this journey of self-development like I am, I would definitely read this book. It was a great read, 7.8. I got this one at the last bookstore when I was in LA, and so it's been sitting on my shelf, but it was a great read. And so that's the one I just finished. And the one I'm currently reading, which I will be reviewing next, is called Brain on Fire. And it's so funny. I've kind of heard of this title and heard of this story. And I picked it up, and then I was talking to my sister-in-law, and she said, oh, there's actually a movie out by it. And so I was like, sweet. Like, I love reading the book and then watching the movie. So after I read this book, I'm going to see if I can find that movie and watch it. If you've read this book, comment below and tell me what you think about it. If not, if you've seen the movie, comment below and tell me what you thought about the movie. Is it worth watching? And then I will take that. And then before I end this review, I wanted to share with you guys just a bunch of books I'm going to be reading this summer. This is not all of them. I have a whole shelf full of books that I still haven't read. But these are the ones I'm kind of be focusing on this summer. And I'm kind of trying to focus on, I don't know, I'm seeing a theme in my like books. And so I know emotional healing, someone was asking me about that a while ago, like, are there any more books on that? And so that's kind of the route I'm going. So it's going to be a little, you know, section of these types of books. And I don't know why I keep picking up yellow books, but I just like the color yellow now. And so another book I'm going to be reading is called Resisting Happiness. And this one seems like a really good one, talking about how we sabotage ourselves and we feel overwhelmed, we set aside our dreams, lacking the courage to be ourselves, and how we can start choosing happiness again. So you will see me read this book this summer. I'm also going to be reading, and I'm really excited about this book, Toxic People. And I was telling one of my best friends back home about this book, and there's different types of like toxic people, like the liar, the control freak, the arrogant know-it-all, the instigator. And so they go into like what different types of people there are, and I'm just excited to read this book. I feel like this would be helpful, not just for me, but for a lot of people I've been talking to lately that have been kind of having conversations about this subject. So I'll be reading Toxic People. I will also be reading this book called Emotional Traps, How Little Logic Can Change Your Life. And if you are an empath like myself and you're very like in tune with emotions and feeling how people feel, I think that this would be a great book to read, and how to really like focus on not getting sucked into those emotional traps. So I'll be reading this summer. I will also be reading, from a big book to a little book, Games People Play. And so this is the psychology of human relationships. And I just feel like overall it would be a great book to add into my little collection. And then I just got this one like a couple weeks ago. It's called The Body Keeps the Score: Brain, Mind, and Body in the Healing of Trauma. And of course, going into the line of work I'm going into, trauma is a huge factor. Everyone has trauma, whether it's big T trauma or little trauma. Everyone goes through something in life for them that is traumatic. And so knowing that, and knowing that I'm going to be working with people that have different types of trauma, and I want to kind of learn more about, you know, how to recognize those things and ways to help heal. So these are, I mean, I have more books, but I just grabbed a bunch that kind of go along this line of like emotional healing and just keying in to recognize certain things. So I look forward to reading those books and other books, and I'm still like getting more books. I have a problem. So like if you ever want to send me a gift, like just give me a book or like a gift card to a bookstore, or, you know, like, yeah. So that is it. And thank you guys so much for watching. I've been hearing I have like family members in Nigeria watching too. So if you're watching in Nigeria, hello, or in London or wherever you're at. And if you have book recommendations, please, please, please put them in the comments below. I'm always picking up new books. I'm always reading. And I'm going to work on being a little bit more consistent. It's summer now. I've given myself a little vacation to kind of, you know, transition from work to summertime. But yeah, that is it. As always, it's been a pleasure, and I will talk to you guys next time. Bye.